While the novel Futility is well known for its prediction of the Titanic disaster, it wasn't the only fictional account. In 1892, a British journalist and publisher named W.T. Stead wrote a short story titled From the Old World to the New. The story described a steamship collision with an iceberg in the North Atlantic, with the ship sinking and many lives being lost due to a lack of lifeboats. Stead was a noted spiritualist and had often claimed his death would be by drowning. What makes Stead's story a chilling coincidence is that he was a passenger on the Titanic's maiden voyage, which occurred 2 decades later on April 14, 1912. Stead was last seen helping women and children board the lifeboats, an act of courage that was later immortalized. He died in the disaster, turning his uncanny fiction into his own grim reality. A man from Colorado, identified only as Joe B., became a national news story in 2020 after an incredible and unbelievable coincidence. On a single day, he bought 2 separate lottery tickets at 2 different locations. By the end of the day, both tickets had won the top prize of $1 million each. He had won the lottery twice on the same day, earning him a total of $2 million. The odds of this happening are, quite literally, astronomical. In 1876, one of history's strangest races played out, and it all came down to a matter of hours. On February 14, 1876, 2 men, working in different cities, unknowingly rushed toward the same goal: a patent for a device that could carry the human voice over wires. Alexander Graham Bell submitted a formal patent application. Elisha Gray filed a caveat, a notice of intent to patent his design. By sheer coincidence, both filings landed at the US Patent Office on the very same day. But Bell's paperwork was officially recorded first, just hours ahead of Gray's. On March 7, 1876, the patent was awarded to Bell, forever securing his name as the inventor of the telephone. For over a century, historians have debated whether Gray might have been the true originator, but in the end, the outcome hinged on timing so precise, a different clerk's decision or a delayed delivery could have rewritten the history of communication itself. In 1837, 2 groups of inventors, separated by an entire ocean, created the same revolutionary device almost at the same time: the electric telegraph. In England, Sir William Fothergill Cooke and Charles Wheatstone patented a system that used 5 needles pointing to letters of the alphabet. It was simple to use, and the British Railways quickly adopted it to standardize signals and timetables. Meanwhile, in America, Samuel Morse was perfecting a very different design, a transmitter that sent coded electrical pulses through a wire. Those pulses became the dots and dashes of Morse code, a language that would dominate global communication for the next century. Though their designs worked in very different ways, both were unmistakably telegraphs, devices that used electricity to send messages across wires. Neither side knew about the other's invention, yet both were working on the exact same breakthrough in the exact same year. By sheer coincidence, the world's first long-distance communication systems were born almost simultaneously, thousands of miles apart. William Shakespeare is considered by many to be the greatest writer in the English language. Miguel de Cervantes, his equal in Spanish, the author of Don Quixote, a foundational text of modern literature, and Inca Garcilaso, a chronicler of both Incan and Spanish history in Peru. All were giants of their time, and their stories ended in a strange, shared moment. William Shakespeare died on April 23, 1616, the same day as his 52nd birthday. Miguel de Cervantes died on April 23, 1616. Inca Garcilaso also died on April 23, 1616. But here's the twist. Though they died on the same calendar date, April 23rd, Shakespeare and Cervantes did not die on the exact same day. England was still using the Julian calendar, while Spain had already adopted the Gregorian. That created about a 10-day difference between their deaths, even though the date on their own calendars was the same. Centuries later, in 1995, UNESCO chose April 23rd as World Book and Copyright Day, a day to celebrate books to honour reading, and to inspire young people everywhere to discover the joy of literature. It began in 1840. William Henry Harrison had just won the presidency after a military career that made him famous for defeating Native American forces at the Battle of Tippecanoe. Among those he fought was Shawnee leader Tecumseh, a man who had tried to unite tribes against American expansion. Tecumseh was killed in battle years earlier, but according to legend, his brother, Tenskwatawa, a Shawnee spiritual leader known as the Prophet, placed a curse on Harrison. The story goes that every president elected in a year ending in 0 would die in office. At the time, it was just a rumour, but soon history seemed to follow it with uncanny precision. In 1841, only 1 month into his presidency, Harrison died of pneumonia after giving the longest inauguration speech in US history, outside in the freezing rain without a coat. 20 years later, in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected. In 1865, he was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theatre. In 1880, James Garfield became president. He was shot by Charles Guiteau, a man furious about being denied a political appointment. Garfield lingered for months, and poor medical treatment eventually led to his death. In 1900, William McKinley won re-election. A year later, he was assassinated by anarchist Leon Czolgosz at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. In 1920, Warren G. Harding was elected. He died suddenly just 3 years later during a trip to San Francisco. The official cause was a heart attack, though rumors of poisoning and scandal surrounded his death. In 1940, Franklin D. Roosevelt secured an unprecedented third term, but in April of 1945, during his fourth term, he died of a cerebral hemorrhage. And in 1960, John F. Kennedy became president. 3 years later, he was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, a moment that remains one of the most shocking and disputed events in American history. For more than a century, the pattern was unbroken. Every president elected in a 0 year died in office. Then in 1980, Ronald Reagan was elected. In 1981, an attempted assassination nearly continued the cycle, but Reagan survived. And in 2000, George W. Bush not only survived his presidency, but also narrowly avoided a bizarre accident when he choked on a pretzel and collapsed, briefly losing consciousness. The Curse of Tecumseh, or the 0 year curse, seemed finally broken, but for 140 years, the coincidence was too exact to ignore. Was it just chance? Or did a prophecy spoken in the early 1800s cast a shadow over the presidency for generations? And those were just a few of the strangest coincidences ever recorded. Maybe they're nothing more than random events lining up in ways our minds struggle to comprehend. Or maybe they're reminders that reality can sometimes be stranger than anything we could invent, because every once in a while, the world creates a coincidence so unlikely, it feels almost impossible. If you enjoyed this journey through the strange and unexpected, there are many more stories waiting to be uncovered. Until then, keep looking closer, because sometimes the most unbelievable stories are the ones that actually happened.